There were records galore last week, and we had our first two-time winner of the year, and he went back-to-back at the Veritex Bank Championship. And we're on the road to French Lick. Hi everyone, I'm Ryan Ballingy and welcome once again to the Road to French Lick, a show chronicling the 2024 Korn Ferry Tour season, culminating in the Korn Ferry Tour Championship presented by United Leasing and Finance at the Pete Dye course at French Lick Resort in French Lick, Indiana. On this week's episode, we crown our first two-time champion of the season, and as it turns out, it's also our first back-to-back winner of the year. But first, before we get to that, let's talk about the incredible first round of Frankie Capan III, the Minnesota native, who shot an opening 58, 13 under par in the first round of the Veritex Bank Championship in Arlington, Texas at Texas Rangers Golf Club. In the process, Frankie Capan III tied the Korn Ferry Tour record for the best single round score against par, matching the 57 shot earlier this year on the par 70 host course at the Ostara Chile Classic, which was shot by Cristobal del Solar. Capan only led by 3 after the opening round, but found himself in a great position to earn a ton of points for the week. He wound up finishing 4th in the tournament at 24 under total, 7 shots behind our winner, Tim Viting. But before we talk about Tim Viting, let's hear from Frankie Capan III on an incredible week for him.
It's definitely felt like I've kind of had a bit of a target on my back, which is, I've never had, that feeling at an event like this. So I think it's definitely new territory for me, but I think there's just been a lot of emotions that have gone on throughout the week, and I'm happy with how I've been able to handle most of them. There's low ones out here, even when it does get windy. Looking at the board, I see some low ones. But at the same time, I'm happy with how I've battled the last 2 days. I feel like battling and just kind of grinding out some decent scores the last couple days is kind of how it's just been going. Obviously had a lot go for me the first round. So maybe it's just evening itself out a little bit.
Congratulations again to Frankie Capan III, a tremendous accomplishment, shooting 58 and earning a ton of Korn Ferry Tour points by finishing in solo 4th place at the Veritex Bank Championship. The tournament was ultimately dominated, though, by Tim Viting, who won the prior tournament at the Lecom Suncoast Classic, and at the time, becoming the 8th consecutive first-time winner on the season. Now he is the first player to go back-to-back this year. He is the first player with 2 wins this year. Winds up winning in record fashion at 31 under 253, setting the Korn Ferry Tour scoring record for 72 holes against par and for a 72-hole total. He now practically assures himself a place on the PGA Tour next season and is absolutely in the top 30 in the standings that will advance to the Korn Ferry Tour Championship presented by United Leasing and Finance. Congratulations to Tim Viting on a tremendous accomplishment. This week, the Road to French Lick is once again on the road with my co-host Brendan Sweeney, taking a trip to Louisville, which will be the center of the sporting universe for the next several weeks, including with the 150th running of the Kentucky Derby and the PGA Championship at Valhalla Golf Club in the Louisville area. Just 70 minutes away from the French Lick Resort, Louisville is going to be hopping in the sports scene, and Brendan Sweeney takes us on a behind-the-scenes look at the Kentucky Derby.
This is Brendan Sweeney, and I'm coming to you live from Wagner's Diner, just outside the gates of Churchill Downs, where the 150th edition of the Kentucky Derby will take place this Saturday. Today we have the great pleasure of speaking to Carl Schmidt, longtime Louisville director of the Louisville Sports Commission and curator of the Muhammad Ali Museum. He showed us around the backstretch today. We also catch up with Fred Coghill, who's wrapping up a 38-year career of covering the Derby, as well as his career with WLKY Sports in Louisville. He'll touch upon the history of Louisville, some of his great experiences, and what the PGA Championship will do at Valhalla coming up at the end of the month, and also what the Road to French Lick will come to with the Korn Ferry Tour later on this year.
So we're in the stable area at Churchill Downs. There's 1,400 horses stabled here. These horses train every day, and then the whole Kentucky Derby phenomenon just gets layered right on top of that. So you have horses going out on the track, doing their training, come back to their barn, get cleaned up, they get a bath, and then they close the track for just Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks horses, and so they can train. They get about 45 minutes. So let's carry on.
What's the season here at the track?
Always open. The spring meet opens the last weekend in April, and the Derby is 1 week later, the first Saturday in May. They run through the 1st of July. They have a short meet in September, and they have a meet that runs the last weekend in October through Thanksgiving.
So as a native Louisvillian, what does Derby mean to you, and what does 150 mean to you, Derby 150?
Well, the Derby is a celebration, and it's about lifestyle, and it's part of the fabric of our community, and it's who we are. It's a time to welcome your guests into town. And Derby 150 to me means I was at the 100th Derby as a college student in the infield, and I'm shocked that I'm still around for Derby 150.
Backstretch at 5-0 Tuesday at Churchill Downs. 38-year veteran sports reporter and dear friend Fred Coghill. What's 150 like, Fred?
Brendan, it's really special. I mean, this is as good as it gets. You know, sometimes people say, why is a number so important, right? Why is 150 more special than the others? Well, you know, there's a book in the Bible named Numbers, right? So, I mean, numbers obviously mean a lot. And I think this has a lot of emotion attached to it for a variety of reasons, including but not limited to we made it past COVID. And it's a really, really big deal. This is the longest continuously running race, the Kentucky Derby, in America. And it is the best race on the planet. So it's exceptionally cool and for me a little bittersweet.
So 38 years, we're on the backstretch. This is a backstretch. This is your last official Derby.
For the station.
For the station.
For the station,
yeah.
Yes.
So, some of the memories, it's got to be mind-blowing, but what sticks out?
Well, I tell you what, you know, there's a song called Blink, 38 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember being here in 1987 with my first Derby with Ali Sheba, almost won a Triple Crown, saw a lot of your misses Triple Crowns. American Pharoah is probably the one that sticks out the most. He was the first Triple Crown winner in 37 years since 1978 with Affirmed, which beat Aladar. Very, very exceptionally cool. Ferry was a special horse. He was like a puppy dog. Most race horses are very high strung. He was the polar opposite. He'd nuzzle you, he'd lick you. There's a famous picture of him laying in his stall with his hooves up, with his owner laying next to him on one side and the trainer Bob Baffert laying on the other. So getting to cover history like that, especially being at the Belmont for that, but it started here, is probably about as cool as it gets.
So Louisville has a very special month coming up. Later on this month, we'll be at Valhalla with the PGA Championship. How do you tie in such 150,000 people here, 150,000 people maybe all week long at Valhalla?
This, again, part of it's a one-shot deal, right? There's one 150, and it's never been in the spring. It's always been, I mean, meaning the PGA in August. Well, they moved the PGA up to May. So within a 2-week window, we get two of the biggest sporting events in the history of this town, literally 14 days or so apart. The town is primed. I mean, the vibe back here, everybody's smiling. And look, everybody smiles almost every year. But this one, there's just a little extra something, a good vibe that, you know, we've had so much bad news lately. This is sort of an escape for all that. Rick Pitino used to say that sports are a noble and honorable escape from the realities of the world, and I would say that really applies for this window of time. Everybody's got a favorite beverage in hand, everybody's seeing old friends. For this, especially where we are right now, this is a reunion of old friends, sometimes year to year, sometimes 20 or 30 or 40 years, and...
Or 38.
Yes, in my case. And the fabric of that, I mean, this is woven into the fabric of the community. It's the only place in the world I've ever been where housewives or house husbands can argue over lettuce at Kroger about horses. You just don't see that anywhere else.
At French Lick, we're celebrating the 100-year anniversary of Walter Hagen winning the 1924 PGA Championship. In October, we're hosting the Korn Ferry Championship, bringing professional golf back to French Lick. You've had great experiences at French Lick. What do you think the Korn Ferry players will do at the PGA course?
It will be a formidable test. It's one of the best golf courses I've ever seen, and from a vista standpoint, it's the most special course I've ever seen. I've often said if it were near a major market, I mean, it would get exceptionally more coverage. I still say it's the best kept secret in the United States. You pull into the property and your jaw just drops because you're looking around it like you're looking at, you know, the Alps basically in golf. I think they're going to have their hands full. I mean, a couple guys will obviously will find the winner. He may be under par. I mean, you never know. It's 8,000 yards at its toughest, and it's already tough from 6,000 yards. I'm just saying. But no, I think they're going to play a lot of fun and an enormously challenging golf course, likely the most challenging they've ever played.
Put a bow on this right now. Who do we like for number 150 at Churchill Downs this week?
I've followed this race this year more than I have in modern times because I teach a course at the University of Louisville, producing stories for the Kentucky Derby. And so I was very connected from early on. Last November, I saw a horse and I fell in love with him, Sierra Leone, who's the second favorite here. He actually lost that race by a nose. It's his only career race he lost. He's got 4 starts, 3 wins, and a second missing by a nose. So he's a nose from being unbeaten. He's a big come from behind horse. That's not always the greatest thing at Churchill Downs. You're navigating a full field of 20. These horses have never seen this many in a field before. They've never gone this far before. They likely never will go that far again or see a field this big again. Many of them never been on this racetrack before except in training. So there's so many variables, you just never know. Think of it as driving on a Chicago expressway at rush hour, right? You're ducking, you're weaving, you're up, you're down.
Swearing your way.
Yes, and that's the Kentucky Derby.
Fred, I can't thank you enough for your friendship, my man. Congratulations on a race well run, my friend. 38 years. Fred Coghill, WLKY. Legend, friend, my buddy. Love you, man.
Right back at you, my friend.
Brendan Sweeney rejoins me. He's been in Louisville for us. Get ready for the 150th Kentucky Derby. And right after that, we've got the PGA Championship in the Louisville area, Valhalla Golf Club, which is about 75 minutes away driving from French Lick. So kind of the confluence of the sporting world is about to hit the French Lick, Louisville metropolitan area, Brendan. So what's kind of the level of excitement in the area for what's about to happen these next few weeks?
Well, I tell you what, I got a great opportunity today to go to Churchill Downs. I've been to Churchill Downs before, but I've never been in the backstretch. And to be invited to go in was pretty cool. They sort of had like, it's area code 502. And today being Tuesday, they call it 50 Tuesdays. And so all the local guys are going there because the Oaks is the big race that used to be the local race that happens on Fridays. Derby's always on Saturday. But the Oaks has just been overrun with people from out of town. And so that the locals just hang out on Tuesday. So it was neat. It was a great experience. And then 2 weeks from now, after Derby closes up, you have the PGA Championship right around the corner in Valhalla. So it's about 15 minutes outside, northeast of Churchill, right up the highway. So yeah, the town is booming. The town is busting. The hoteliers, the restaurants, all the vendors are happy. I'm sure Budweiser and Woodford are going crazy as well. And the bar was flowing freely this morning. I was walking by in the backstretch. I'm like, I wouldn't mind popping in there, but I had to be responsible and jump on an airplane and head back home. So it's good. The golf is fabulous. I was just up at the resort. I was up at French Lick. It's meetings up there. The courses are in fabulous shape. It's been a great spring. The crew at our place is doing great. The Donald Ross, we just wrapped up. We had a big 3-year bunker project that we just wrapped up. So all the bunkers have been totally redone. And we're working on a couple surprises coming up in the near future down in the valley. So it's springtime in the Midwest, north of the Ohio River, and south of the Ohio River is considered sort of the Midwest. And that's where they're going to be this week for the Derby. So we had a couple good conversations that we'll catch up with this later.
We have a little break here on the Korn Ferry Tour schedule, a week off, and the Advent Health Championship in Missouri. But we went 8 tournaments, 8 first-time winners, 5 playoffs, as we mentioned. Get to the 9th tournament, we finally get a second-time winner or a multi-time winner. It just turns out it's going to be the same guy who was the last first-time winner, Tim Veeding. Wins the 8th tournament of the year at the Lee-Com, wins the 9th tournament of the year at the Veritex Bank Championship. Great run for him and practically secures himself a tour card for next year. That's a really cool thing for somebody to know. Hey, I've got to wait till October to get this, but I'm almost certain I'm going to get a PGA Tour card.
Well, one more victory would be a battlefield promotion.
Right, the 3-win promotion.
Well, you win 3. I know
that hasn't happened in a while.
I remember Luke Guthrie did it way back in the day, and I think someone else did, but I forgot who it was. But yeah, that's pretty solid right there. But you look at what's going on tour right now. These guys are fighting. They're fighting hard. And we always sort of focus on like the top 10. But I think you're going to start seeing the molding of the top 70, which advance to French Lick, and then the top 25 after that, who go on to get their card. So there's going to be a race within the race within the race. So it's coming down to where all these shots are important. And these guys are playing their tails off. We had a 58 last week.
Yeah.
Frankie Capan III. He banked it. And then a fella shoots a 60 and is 3 strokes behind or 2 strokes behind him, and he's shooting lights out. It's just crazy competitive. These guys are that good. And, the course conditions are set up for them fabulously, and they're just ripping the cover off the ball. And, our guy, Miles Russell, he gave it a valiant effort. He didn't make the cut, but we shot a 70 in the last day, which is pretty solid. And that's a lot of pressure for a kid. I'm sure he felt it on the inside.
Yeah.
It was sort of cool to go the first time. Now everybody sort of gave him a double look and whatnot, but he's got a lot of offer. And you know what? We were the first guys to tackle him on the interview. So, we'll put that in our little feather in the cap there. So great job, Miles. Proud of you, buddy. And hopefully we'll catch you down the road and get you back on the show.
It's tough sledding when you've got to shoot 6 or 7 under par for 2 rounds just to get to play the weekend. That's a tough business to live in.
Yeah, but it makes the prize so much sweeter when you get it.
That's true. And you did mention this about, we do focus on the top 5 or top 10, top 30, whichever milepost you want to talk about in terms of the standings. But the way the Korn Ferry Tour season works, there is a reshuffle basically every 4 events. So if you don't have a good stretch of play or you have a great stretch of play, you can find your availability into getting into these tournaments for the remainder of the season either improving dramatically or being hurt tremendously. And it can happen in a very short span of time.
Amen. Yeah, very loud and clear. And you'll see it start to shake out. With the tour coming up now, with their schedule being the way it is, we're moving into the summer months. We're moving into some more drier weather. We'll be hitting a lot of Midwestern places in the plains. We'll be heading to Kansas, Oklahoma, Illinois. And it's all going to be coming down where weather may become a factor and drying out some of these courses.
Yeah, and these guys have been lighting it up on the last couple of weeks. I mean, 58s, 59s. I mean, we've had a bunch of sub-60 scores already this year. We've had plenty of them to look at. It's going to get a little bit tougher in terms of the setup, as you mentioned. It'll get a little bit firmer, a little bit faster. But these guys are incredible. I mean, they're putting up numbers that you can't believe. And they do it every single week. And most weeks, the player who puts up that number doesn't even wind up winning the tournament. That's how hard it is to be this good on the Korn Ferry Tour and earn your way to the PGA Tour. So it's a great stretch that we've just gone through. To take a little respite this week, maybe enjoy a mint julep at the Derby or watching it at home. And we get to enjoy the PGA Championship. We're right back at it with the Advent Health Championship. So, Brendan, thanks so much for being with us, and we'll do this again very soon.
Cheers, buddy. Thanks again.
With his second consecutive win on the Korn Ferry Tour, Tim Veeding remains number 1 in the Korn Ferry Tour point standings, adding to his number 1 tally with 500 Korn Ferry Tour points. He now leads the standings as we look at the top 5 this week in the Korn Ferry Tour points list, knowing that the top 30 in the standings at the end of the season, including at the Korn Ferry Tour Championship presented by United Leasing and Finance, earn PGA Tour cards for next season. Number 1 on our list is Tim Veeding at 1,261 points. Mason Anderson remains second in our list at 813 points. Stephen Fisk remains third at 755 points. Kevin Vila remains fourth at 665 points, while Trent Phillips remains fifth at 595 points. As we do each week on the road to French Lick, we take a look at 2 holes on the Pete Dye course, the French Lick Resort at French Lick, Indiana, the host of the Korn Ferry Tour Championship, presented by United Leasing and Finance. And for the 3rd episode in our series, we look at 2 challenging par 4s, the par 4 5th hole and the downhill par 4 6th hole. Here's Will Haskett with more.
The 5th hole is the shortest par 4 on the course, and your tee shot here is of the utmost importance. An ideal struck tee shot ends up in the left center of the fairway. That misses all the fairway bunkers down the right-hand side, but also aligns you perfectly for an approach shot to a green that sits at a 45-degree angle from the fairway. It's a very small green, and the bailout is actually a little bit long and left of the putting surface, but remember, this approach shot plays significantly uphill. The 6th hole is a great par 4, but do not miss left. Over 20 bunkers line the left rough, and a premium is placed on the accurate tee shot near the fairway bunkers on the right-hand side. That leaves a mid-iron approach shot of about 160 to 175 yards to the green. This hole will also be one of the most photographed, while the vistas from the green are absolutely incredible.
That'll do it for us this week on the road to French Lick. Thanks so much for watching. We appreciate it. The next Korn Ferry Tour event is in 2 weeks at the Advent Health Championship in Kansas City, Missouri at Blue Hills Country Club, with another $1 million purse on the line, $180,000 to the winner, and 500 very important Korn Ferry Tour points to the champion. We'll check back in with you again on the road to French Lick after that tournament. I'm Brian Ballingy. For everyone here at Golf News Net and for the French Lick Resort, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.